Let's talk a little bit of politics now and the future of the grand old party. Where are Republicans headed? Recently, many leaders, like former Vice President Dick Cheney and Rush Limbaugh, have questioned and criticized former Secretary of State Colin Powell regarding some of his current stands. Well, Powell fired back over the weekend. Take a listen.
I have always felt that the Republican Party should be more inclusive than it generally has been over the years, and I believe we need a strong Republican Party that is not just anchored in the base, but has built on the base to include more individuals. And if we don't do that, if we don't reach out more, the party is going to be sitting on a very, very narrow base. And you can only do two things with a base. You can sit on it and watch the world go by, or you can build on the base.
All right, so is he speaking the truth there? What does it mean for Colin Powell's future in the GOP? Let's talk about it with Ron Bonjean, the former chief of staff to the Senate Republicans, and Michael Brown, the former finance vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. Ron, clear up your title for me, because I got it wrong there, first of all, your former title.
Chief of staff of the Senate Republican Conference.
All right, there we go. Thank you. So, Ron, should we be surprised that Dick Cheney and Colin Powell are taking shots at each other?
This is a rivalry that goes back to the Gulf War when Dick Cheney was Secretary of Defense and Colin Powell was Joint Chiefs of Staff. There is no love lost between these two guys, and I don't think they're going to be going hunting together anytime soon. Having said that, I think both are right. Colin Powell is right. We need to grow our party. We need to reach out to moderates and independents, and Republicans are working on it. And Dick Cheney is right to defend the Bush administration and national security stances like Guantanamo Bay. However, these are the leaders that are not going to decide the future of the Republican Party. It's going to be up to the future leaders. That's going to be the real way forward for us. It's not going to be looking in the past like feuds between Cheney and Colin Powell.
I thought we brought you guys on here to disagree. But, Michael, you agree with Ron. You say at least that Colin Powell is right here.
Well, I do agree partly with what Ron said. I think a lot of what he said is also a little wishful thinking. I know they would love to turn the chapter and turn the page a little bit, and hopefully these future leaders, whoever they are, would take over the party. The problem is, whether it's Newt Gingrich, Rush Limbaugh, or Dick Cheney, they are now the spokespeople for the Republican Party, and that's a shame because they've always talked about trying to have this big tent party, but clearly, if those are your messengers, that's not a big tent. And then anytime you disrespect Colin Powell, I don't think that can be any kind of recipe for trying to be in a party that's inclusive. So I agree with some of what he said, and I feel sorry for some of what he said.
Well, isn't it the case? Go ahead, Ron.
I just have to respectfully disagree. You know, if Colin Powell truly cared about the Republican Party, he would be in there fighting in the trenches like we all are, trying to figure out our way forward, putting together our agendas and our ideas. Every time I hear about Colin Powell, it's regarding something against the Republican Party on a Sunday show.
Well, that endorsement of Barack Obama.
What really matters is young Republicans around the country, future leaders and members of Congress that are going to pick up the torch and carry it forward. Folks like Eric Cantor, folks like Ryan Frazier, a senatorial candidate running for the Senate in Colorado. There are a number of Republicans that will resurge forward in the years to come. It's going to take a little while, I'll grant you that, but you know, we're light years ahead of where the Democrats were when they were in the minority.
What about that, Michael? I mean, Michael, 12 years ago, Democrats were in a real funk in Washington. They had lost control of the Senate and the House and the White House.
Yeah, but we were still a big tent party. The American people may not have been hearing our message. Maybe we weren't crafting our message properly. But this is a little different. Their message is basically one-folded. It's a right-wing, ideological kind of slant that the Republican Party has that's frankly being hijacked. And I think that's what Colin Powell is talking about. I think he's talking about, yes, it's okay that he wanted to support Barack Obama. He thought he was the better person for the job, and now he's being condemned for that. And frankly, most Americans thought he was a better person for the job, too. So Colin Powell is on the right side of that issue. The larger problem the Republicans have is, what do they stand for? They seem to just stand for a couple of things that go to a narrow group of people. That's their problem, and they're not going to be able to overcome that anytime soon.
Michael Brown.
I got to tell you.
I'm sorry, Ron, we have to leave it there. Michael Brown and Ron Bonjean. Thank you both.
Thank you.